Hi, everyone. Welcome to our completely revamped first episode of January 2021 for the Ridiculously Amazing Insurance Agent Podcast. We're changing up our podcast, and I couldn't be more excited. We're going to deliver 2 interviews with our clients every month about ways that they're succeeding in agency performance. This isn't going to be one of those fluffy infomercials. This is going to be about the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into transforming your agency, especially around personal lines and small commercial with agencies with 8, 15, 20, 25, 50 team members. So this is about really evoking change in an agency. And that's why I couldn't be more excited than to have the one and only Miss Vanessa Kimball from the Kimball Group down in Texas. She runs an agency with her husband, Dwayne, and they have been growing. And we've been blessed enough to work with them both on an agency assessment, most recently our AppX Retention Program, getting proactive on renewal reviews, and now on a retainer to keep working with their team. So without further ado, I'm going to let Vanessa tell her ridiculously amazing agent story. But this is a podcast for you if you're struggling with your team's confidence and the idea of making renewal reviews seems so overwhelming. I'll let Vanessa take it from here. Well, hello, ridiculously amazing insurance agent podcast listeners. I'm so excited. I have a special guest here today. You guys may know her from IAOA or some of the Hawksoft user groups, but we have the one and only Vanessa Kimball here today. Vanessa, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. How are you?
You know what? It's we're shooting this the day after Thanksgiving, so I know not a lot of insurance agents are working today, but I guess we are putting in the extra effort to be ridiculously amazing, right?
Yes, I guess we are.
How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. We spent it with the kids and stayed home. We actually went to Louisiana early, spent some time there, went to our office in Lafayette, and then came home and just spent the day with the kids and cooked and made dessert and slept all afternoon.
That sounds like a good day. So, for those of people out there that don't know you in the Kimball Group, why don't you fill us in? Tell us a little bit about the agency.
So we are located north of Houston in a town called the Woodlands, Texas. And we have been here since 2010. And we are a staff of 15, going to be 16 come Monday. We have a new person starting on Monday, 3 locations, and we have done 3 acquisitions since we started the agency in 2010.
Oh my goodness. So, you've had your plate full and you probably deserve that nap yesterday.
Yes, it's been a challenge, but it's been a good challenge.
Well, there's one other thing you didn't mention too. You also work with your husband too.
Yes, that's been a challenge in itself, but it's been a good challenge, and he's basically been my backbone. You know, those days when I can't go on anymore, and he's like, "Okay, tomorrow's another day. You know, just calm down." He's probably the person of reason, and I'm the one of just get it done and get a wild idea and just run with it. And he's kind of like, "Whoa, step back a little bit." So it's a good match.
I love that. I love that. I always say I cannot work with my husband. We've tried a few times on different projects, but our brains just don't work quite the way that they should together. We're better married than business partners.
Yeah, well, actually, Dwayne and I have worked together in businesses since we were 17.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yes, Dwayne had a family business that he took over at 17 while he was in high school, and it was a video store. And I am an August birthday; he's a November birthday, so he had a year left of school. And he would go to school and get out half day and go to the store, get it running. I get out of vocational school and go relieve him, and he'd go do his sports that he was in, baseball, football, whatever. And that was like that for several years. Probably throughout his college, he actually paid for his college doing that. And so, yeah, so we've been together for a very long time.
Well, you guys have a series of hard workers in the family. And
Yes.
a little bit on the agency side. So, how many locations, personal, commercial lines?
So we have 3 locations. Like I said, we started here in the Woodlands, and in 2015, we did an acquisition of a small book of a personalized, mostly personalized business, and got that under our belt. And 3 months later, less than 3 months later, we got another call that there was an agency in Aledo, Texas that was for sale. And so we absorbed that book as well. Both of them were very, very small, but it was enough to get us going,
Sure.
getting used to the acquisition thing. Because in my past job, I was in charge of folding in acquisitions when we did those. So I had a little bit of experience with that. Um, but in February of this year, 2020, we did our largest acquisition, which almost doubled our size. Brought that in, folded in, and worked on getting that all together into our Hawksoft system, and it's been great. Dwayne handled the finance side of it. I handled the insurance side of it.
Excellent. And I always have this theory. So it doesn't sound to me like you grew up in insurance, right? I don't know if your parents had an insurance background, but very few people grew up wanting to get into this crazy industry. So tell me, what did you want to be officially when you were growing up, and how did you get into this industry?
So officially, I wanted to be a CPA,
Not
working with numbers. Don't know why. Don't have any CPAs in our family, but I guess I've always liked numbers. And didn't end up going to college. I went to a vocational school, did accounting there, and had a job at a bank part-time, and had about 4 jobs at one time, and helping Dwayne and selling makeup, and then also working for a grocery store. And I was like, I cannot sit here in a bank as a teller all day, just sitting here. It was so boring. I have to be doing things. And everybody that would come through that had a business, I would say, are you guys hiring? And one day I got a call from a lady who said, are you still looking? I'm like, yes. And she's like, well, we have a receptionist job. And I'm like, okay, where? And she said, in Morgan City, a little town, about 15 minutes from where I live, $850 a month plus benefits. And I was like, sold. I am going to work for you. And so that's how I got started, checking the mail, filing, picking up faxes. This is when it was the roll paper fax. Yes, no rating system. Everything was rated manually. And so I guess with my CPA mind that I wanted to be, that was really right up my alley. And then about 3 months after being in there, the girl who was the personalized person decided it wasn't for her. She had a psychology background, and asked my boss if I could have her job. And he said, well, you don't know anything about insurance. And I don't know. I said, well, she didn't either. And I'm half her age, so I can learn faster. And that's how I got started.
That's amazing. Well, you and I have that in common. I was actually a bank teller as well. And it was either crazy in our lobby, or it was the most like you were watching paint dry during the day.
Oh, I know. I was in the drive-through. So, you only got busy at a certain time. And the rest of the day was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm very move around a lot kind of person. So just sitting there waiting was not my cup of tea. Thankful for it, but not my cup of tea.
No, and I just remember I would float around to the different offices. I was like a floater, so it kind of made things a little bit more interesting. But I loved the giving away lollipops and dog treats. That was the highlight. Like, oh, there's a puppy. Let's put the dog treat in the teller stand. But it's a good start to a professional career for sure.
Yes.
So from your perspective, everyone's got these different opinions on the independent insurance agency, especially personal lines. And I know you're predominantly personal lines. Where do you see this crazy industry going in the next 5-10 years?
I think the independent side will always be here because you have people who want relationships. And then you also have the side who just want cheap. They just want to go with the cheapest thing to be legal, penny pinchers, and not really educated on asset protection. So I think that it's here to stay. At what level, I'm not quite sure. What we're trying to do is really make sure we build those relationships with customers so they understand that when you have a question, you have a person to go to. It's not an 800 number that you just get a call to a person who's never ever gonna speak to again. So I think both will still be around. It's just at what level of that customer that they want that relationship.
Sure. I think lots of industries are facing that as well. We're doing this during the coronavirus times, and I heard reports about like what's going to happen to malls and things like that, with more online. But it's really a good time to kind of perfect who you want to spend time with. And I advocate for that because I don't think we should be generalists. You can't serve everybody in an independent agency well. It's just too hard.
Right.
And not everybody values you. So you end up spending a lot of time on the people who don't value you for whatever reason. So what's the biggest, did you have something to add, Vanessa?
I think I agree with you on that. I mean, we finally got to the point where it's not where we have to have every piece of business. We want the people who respect our industry and who value our professionalism and that we're out here to look for their best interest. You know, I recently had a customer who was trying to move half here, move half there. And I was like, and I told him, I said, you know, in the best interest of your of your protection, I think you need to have it all in one place, and we'll make that easy for you to move everything to one agent, because you don't want to have your stuff spread over and not one person looking over your protection. And if it's all about price and that's what you're looking at the bottom line, then maybe we're not the right fit for you. And he respected me for that. And he took it all to one place because the bottom line was numbers and not really protecting what we wanted that he needed to do.
Sure.
You know? So I think that that's where we finally got to the point is we have to make sure people understand the value of the coverage and what we're trying to do for them.
I think that's a really valid point, because I see a lot of times in agencies, it's like, well, I did what the customer wanted. And we have to take it up and say, well, they don't know much about insurance. Let's take a minute to educate them and make sure that's really what they want.
Right.
And so it's like, I mean, we always joke, you've heard me say it to your team before. It's like, do you want to pay for your own insurance? Not
right. And I think it's taking it to the next level too, Kelly, because like I had a client that I did a review on, and she wanted to drop comp and collision on a fairly new car. She bought a new Lexus and she had the older Lexus. I won't really be driving it much. And so we went through the numbers. I said, okay, if we drop collision, this is what you're going to save. If we drop comp and collision. So we went back and forth. I said, really, in my opinion, your car is still too new to not have comp and collision on it. And it doesn't make but a $8 difference in premium dropping the comp and collision because of the way the rating model is. And so we went back and forth over it, and she's like, okay, just leave it. The very next day, her car was totaled by someone uninsured. So I think it's taking it to that next level of just not doing what they ask you to do, but thinking through it and making sure they understand it's not just dropping the coverage because that's what you want to do, and having that consultative approach. And she was very thankful that I convinced her not to do it.
Or people assume it's going to save them hundreds of dollars, right? Like it's at the end of the day. So what's the biggest, challenge your agency is working on tackling right now?
The biggest challenge I think we're gonna tackle for 2021 is getting our name out there a little more and making sure that we educate people. And by putting our name out there through educational pieces, that people understand that we know what we're doing. We're here for our clients. It's not just a job. It's not just an insurance policy. It's asset protection. So that's really where we're going in 2021 is, we've gotten our staffing in place. I feel very confident that we have the right people on the bus and that we can really put a push for that and not only do a good job, but have the action behind the effort.
That's amazing. And it's nice to get to that place too, where you feel like now's the time to let's get more in here, because internally we're working really, really well. And we know when it comes in, we have a place for it, and we can do a great job for people.
It's always been our concept, but it's like everybody else in the insurance business, it's finding the right people and keeping them on staff, the right attitude, motivating people. And I really feel like that we've reached that at this point, and we can confidently market ourselves now.
Oh man, that must be such a great feeling coming into the new year.
It is. It really is. I actually told my husband the other day, I'm very, very happy with the team that we have right now. I'm very blessed.
It makes such a big difference. Like you and I had talked a little bit before, but when you have the wrong people, the amount of headaches that agency owners deal with is so heavy and so big and so great. And it takes up so much time too, that it's hard when you're in it because you don't want to let someone go, because that's hard, but it's also hard to stay in it too. And so what advice would you have for some agency owners that maybe are stuck in that situation of they feel like maybe they don't have the right team, but it's hard to make hard decisions?
It's very hard, especially because some of the decisions that have been made by either the employee or us, they're friends. You become friends with them, and then it's hard, but then you've got a business to run and you've got a team that you have to do the right thing for the rest of the team. And there's been some decisions that were made from an employee side leaving, that was really hard for us to swallow or take, because we really like, certain individuals. But at the end of the day, if they don't want to be here, then you don't really want them to be here either. And that was really, really hard to swallow, because I get really emotionally attached to people. I'm a people person. And so you take it personally, but you can't. And that's what Dwayne's like, Vanessa, it's a business. You can't take it personally. So I've had to really work hard at not taking it personally, but also sitting back and actually identifying when those issues are going on, and not saying, okay, it'll go away.
Right.
That's, I think, has been the biggest challenge from a staffing standpoint. And then once you really start seeing the signs, you can handle it differently. And then you're not pretending it's not there.
Right. And having a plan of attack that's fair for both parties, right?
Correct.
Have you heard? Agency Performance Partners has a new website and mission to make agencies ridiculously amazing. Our 3-minute videos have moved to social media with a weekly recap via email and a weekly mashup on our podcast. But if you need a daily dose, check out our social media channels in the show notes. We are on a mission in 2021, and I'm leading the charge to help making agencies ridiculously amazing. Curious what that entails? Let me share it with you. Ridiculously amazing insurance agents outlast the suck of change. They enthusiastically try, and they're never busy, but they're always productive. They never email a quote without a conversation. They're consistently proactive, not reactive, and they remember to slow down in order to speed up. They don't make sales a dirty word, and they're Tiggers and reject that Eeyore mentality. They're not intimidated by having a conversation about rate, and they're an educator that uses knowledge as the sword to fight against price. They also recognize the honor they have of protecting what people work hard for. You can take our 12-question quiz on our new website to see how ridiculously amazing your agency is. Need help? No worries. We have a course just for agency owners, or you can book a time with us to learn how we can partner with your agency. So I know, in full transparency, you do work with us over at Agency Performance Partners. And so if you don't mind telling the listeners out there, what are some of the programs that you've worked on with our company, and kind of break down a little bit about what your experience has been?
So we started off with the time management piece, just identifying, okay, what's the problem? We had all the measures in place, and it was always the feedback of, we're too busy, we can't get to that, this is too much work, the customer's not calling back, and there wasn't any buy-in. And so we had some, Dave come out, and we talked about looking at the things that were the issues. And through that, there was some cleansing of the agency. It was hard. It was very hard. There was, certain relationships that were devastating to me, but looking back now, I think it was best for both parties. The other side of it is it allowed us to focus on moving forward with the next part, which was the retention part. We started that in the midst of the pandemic. The thing was, do we want to wait till the pandemic's over, or do we want to start now? It's like, we don't even know how long this pandemic's going to go on, so let's just do it. As I mentioned earlier in the interview, I'm a type of person, let's just do it and get it going, and I don't overanalyze it. So we started the retention part back in April of this year, and just finished up our 6-month program.
And at that point, you had pretty much, most people were working from home, right? At that point, or was it part 50-50?
Yeah. So when the pandemic hit, we put everybody going home, which the way we're all set up, everything's on our computer system, our phones, everything. So it really was seamless transition. Everybody just took their PC and monitors and went home and set up their station. So that was a little different for me, because like I said, I like to be around people. So being here by myself in the office was not quite fun for me. But anyway, so we all transitioned to home.
I think I remember us talking one time, and you were like, it's really weird, the phone's not ringing around me all day long.
Yeah, Yeah, well, not necessarily ringing, but just like not hearing anybody answering, because our phones ring, we don't really hear ring, but it's more of not hearing answering the phones and them taking care of our clients. So it was deafening because it's like, okay, is the phone ringing? Are people taking care of our customers? What is going on here? So that was definitely different for me.
And when we first met on the renewal call program, you guys had been doing some renewal calls. And I think that you kind of felt like, hey, there's got to be, they just were seeming maybe a little overwhelming at the time, right? And so when you were looking at making renewal calls, because people think we're crazy that, hey, agencies call everybody once a year. That's insane. There's no way you can do it. What was your kind of thought process leading into it? And, now 6 months later, what has kind of been the outcome?
So going in, I knew it was possible. We did have somewhat of a procedure in place, not that it was followed. We did have, we were short on account managers, so we were looking to hire more people. We just folded in this acquisition. So not only that, I'm trying to get the book of business rolled into our Hawksoft system, train the other location. And, I've got one account manager to handle a huge book here. Doing the interview during COVID. I mean, was just wild.
It's insane.
So like I said, we did have somewhat of a process, but I really think that starting this program was the best timing because clients were calling us back. As before, we were doing all of this work and clients weren't calling us back. At this point, we had clients calling us because people didn't know what was going to happen with COVID. People were home. They can read their mail. They're getting it when it comes in. It's not stuffed in a bag or in your car and you forget about it. Oh, I'm just going to pay the renewal. So we were really busy during the beginning of COVID with phones.
Yeah.
So it was a really good time to get this going for us.
Absolutely. And, throughout the process, how did you see your team change? Because I know I have a soft spot in my heart for one of the people who was there from day one, who I think kind of just really blossomed and has taken her career a little bit to the next level. But what have you kind of seen as your team development over the 6 months?
Confidence. There's been a lot of confidence building in there. The thought process that it's not possible to, wow, this is really helpful. We've seen our retention ratio level out and increase some. I think that from empowering people, giving them the tools that they need to say that this is possible, and going from I can't get this done to, hey, I need some more renewal calls. I've ran out of calls. Can you give me some more calls? Does somebody need some help? I'm like, am I living in a dream world here? I was like, oh my word, I've gone from this can't be done when I knew it could be done to I need more work. It's just amazing.
And I think that, having the team really work together too, where it's not just, okay, this is my clients and I have to bear the cross all by myself, but no, this is the Kimball Group clients and we can all work together to get the job done.
Right. And I think the one thing that I learned through it too is, I even grew through it. We've got all these calls and then you've got a half of a book that doesn't have an account manager yet. And so I really tried to stay focused on that one account manager we had servicing her book, letting her work her book. And then I would try to work the other book when I could or get some help. But I try to really not overwhelm the one account manager we had servicing that book and let her learn through what she has and keeping it to where she could be successful instead of throwing it all on her. And that was tough for me because it was like, I wanted to, okay, take this. But I really had to focus on letting her be successful with her book that she has.
Yeah. And I think seeing the team kind of have those moments of like, okay, I am on top of things. I feel in control of my day. I don't feel like I know so many account managers. And I know you've been in this industry a long time. There's might have been days where you felt like this too, where the day's just happening to me. I can't breathe. I haven't gone to the bathroom, and now all of a sudden the stories change where you are a little bit more in control. And when someone does have a rate increase, it's not let's scramble and remarket them. It's let's have the conversation because we're both on the same page at the same point when you get the renewal.
I think the biggest thing with that too is you're in control of the call. You always
Mhm.
told us in the training, you want to be in control of the call. So it's a whole different mindset that when you call the customer and you've already reviewed the file, reviewed the credits, and you call them to make that renewal call. We just had one the other day where one of the account managers called and the lady was really, well, my rates really went up. That's why I'm giving you a call. I've already done this, and this, and gave her all her solutions. Well, that call turned on a dime because you had a defensive lady who, in return, you had all the solutions for her already. And so there was nothing she can say because she knew you were taking care of her. So just changing that mindset of, instead of you having the screaming person on the phone, you've already reviewed it. You already know what's happening with the file and you're proactive on it. So that's been huge for the team.
Well, and I think too, one of the things, so everyone gets all tripped up. How do we call everybody? That seems like a lot of work. Your agency is somewhere a little over 50% in reaching people, even kind of through the summer and when COVID kind of, we all got used to it a little bit more. That's probably the best way to put it. But we pick up a lot of time generally in agencies because we're not doing as many reshops, because when that person calls in upset, it's not, let me figure everything out. It's, hey, I called you last week. Let's go over the plan. And so you pick up a lot of time saving those remarket times.
Right. We actually had a guy who walked in the other day and his rates went up $1,600 and he was really upset and my mortgage owner paid it. I said, well, let me look at the notes. Now, mind you, we're all remote for the most part. So this particular account manager is remote. Well, she had all of her notes in there. The premium went up $1,600. I called the customer. Her pre-call checklist was in there. She even had a note that he called her. She called him. He was in the meeting. He would call her back. So I told him, I said, Mr. Such and such has said, well, I see where, our account manager reached out to you and you were in a meeting, you were going to call back. She sent another email and hasn't been able to connect with you. She was aware of the rate increase and that's why we were reaching out to you. And that changed the whole demeanor of the conversation because her pre-call was there, all her notes were there. And he was like, well, I guess I got busy and didn't text back. And then I said, well, we have a texting system through our agency management. Why don't you go ahead and put let me opt you in and save it as the Kimball Group in your phone so you know that's us texting you. And that just changed the whole conversation with him because he couldn't be defensive anymore because actually it was him.
Well, and obviously, if the rate went up $1,600, it's probably a nice size account too. So now you don't have probably more of a VIP personalized account mad at you.
Right.
And that's a good empowering feeling to kind of go through for sure. What do one thing you mentioned is the pre-call list. And I don't know if all of our listeners know what that is. Do you mind just explaining what the pre-call list is so people kind of know what the approach is?
Sure. So basically, it's a sheet that we developed with Kelly. She had a base foundation of a sheet, and we amended it to our liking or to things that are pertinent to us. And so basically, an account manager will pull up this pre-call checklist, go through the file, answer all the questions. Just it's an overview to make sure they don't forget anything. Like the roof age, make sure to check if the roof is now on an ACV roofing. Deductibles, see if the deductible has changed. So it's just a quick overview of the file. And then at that point, once they've done that, they make the phone call to the customer. They get the customer on the phone. They go through the script that we have set up for our agency. And they love it. They absolutely love the script because they stay on track. They don't forget anything. And then after they've done with the call, they just save it to the client's file. If it has to be remarketed, we have a process for that. Or any changes that need to be made, we have codes in the system so we know if they're upselling a policy, cross-selling a policy. So all that's tracked in our system, and it gives us an opportunity as agency owners for my husband and I to look at him and say, this is what's happening to our agency. Whereas before we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know how many calls were being made. We didn't know what was our success rate. So it's very good to be able to see that information and to give it back to the team because they don't know either. How many of your team members actually track everything? We didn't. They don't know. So it gives them empowerment too, saying, did you know that we made 300 calls and we actually talked to 150 people? Oh, wow. Is that what we did? So it's good. Your team wants to know it. They want to know how they're doing.
Oh, I think that's great. And then you can operate out of more facts, not feelings, right? Like,
Exactly.
because we'll have a lot of times, well, I feel like I'm just leaving voicemail messages. Well, you might be because people don't pick up for numbers they don't know. But like you just did with that gentleman of save this number in either text message or whatnot. The more they do, the more they understand it. And then the more they do pick up the phone when you call, which makes it much
Right.
more valuable. Um, what's your advice for other agencies that might be looking at making renewal review calls? Like, what would you tell them if, they're in the same position you were maybe 6 months ago?
You know, I've been in the business for over 30 years and I've always done renewal calls to some degree. And I finally got to the point where I realized, you know what, I know what I'm doing in insurance, but things have changed. I need help. And so you have to admit that you need help and you're not, just because you've done it this way for 30 years doesn't mean that you know what's right. And I think having Kelly has really helped take the burden off of me, and given some guidance to the team. Um, and it's really helped to help me grow as well, to say, okay, things change, the world changes, so you can't always do things the way you've always done it. And so once I realized that and said I needed help, that was huge for us.
That's great. Thank you. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard was it to get this program going? Now, I do understand you were totally short staffed, just for our listeners. There was a pandemic going on.
So I think on a scale of 1 to 10, starting it would probably be a 3 or 4, only because I was in my own way. It was, how am I going to get this done? Like my team members, this is possible. We're in the middle of a pandemic. How do you motivate people when you're not together? So I think on a scale of 1 to 10, it was probably a 4. As we went through the process, it really was simple because your team had access to Kelly. My team had access to Kelly. I gave them free reign. Reach out to her, send her your call if you had a problem with a call. I don't want to be in the middle of it because I think that that is what needs to be for them to grow professionally. And when I removed myself from controlling it all, it went a lot smoother. And through that, we ended up making another position in our agency where we promoted someone up to operations analyst, where she's now in charge of reporting those numbers and giving feedback and working with the team every Thursday on a call that I hardly ever get on anymore, because it allowed me to step back and say the team needs each other more, and then I just need to be there to help with renewal reviews if they had a file, not saying, did you do this, did you do that? So they're accountable to each other.
I know you did some cool things with incentive plans around football season. And I know you mentioned a little bit people kind of working together. And, when I don't know if you can explain the football program. I don't want you to give any trade secrets away. Really jazzed up, during football season with Vanessa's incentive program.
Yeah. So we basically started a program, once we got, the second account manager staffed up in training in here, and just basically trying to incentivize them to keep going because they already had the buy-in. They already started seeing the progress of it. So I wanted to reward them for the efforts and the progress. And so basically they have to make 20 calls a week, 4 calls a day, and it equates to money. And so if they make 20 calls a week after a 12-week period, they get $500 just for making their calls. And then if they go above and beyond those calls, I have a separate tier for additional funds for that. And then for the person that's over helping support staff, they have a referee type, a coach type incentive as well. And really, it's been amazing. Not only they want to make the calls, but they want the contest. They want to win the contest. So that's been really, really good for our team.
And I feel like because they got so into the rhythm of making the calls, they're caught up and they're ahead. But there's been some weeks where people were looking for calls to make to get to.
Yes, I mean, it's just amazing. It's like I'm getting calls to where I need more calls, and so we've come up with a process to help another location we have, that we brought in to help support them. to where, we've got a list of what's current, and they're actually pretty ahead. They're working ahead and not behind. Our team is making calls every day, the day the renewals hit, which is amazing. So there's no backlog of renewal calls. If somebody calls back, they've got their pre-call checklist attached to the file. Anybody can handle the call. Oh yeah, I see such and such called you, and this is what they want to go over, and all the notes are there. And so that person can do the review with them. So it's exciting. I'm amazed that we are actually at this point.
So I'll wrap up with this question because I want to be respectful of your time too. Is the agency having more fun doing renewal calls and being caught up on them than before?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. We don't get, the complaint calls. I'm not getting the complaint calls. I'm not getting that, that panic mode that I've got to pull in and do the remarket now because this person hasn't been able to call back, so it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, Vanessa, thank you. You've been such a great client and a good guest on our podcast. So I know that you're active on IAOA and a lot of the Hawksoft user groups, but nobody gets to see each other anymore. So so we get to see each other on Zoom and video conferences, but not quite the same. So thank you so much for sharing your story, and we appreciate you being a client. And any final words for our listeners out there?
If you're struggling, call Kelly. We're actually extending our contract for the next year to continue to work with her. We see how important it's been to our team. Invest in the money because it'll save you lots of headache and time.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you at the next podcast. Curious on how you can reduce remarketing in your agency without hurting retention? Well, every agency wants to grow, right? It's hard to get to cross-selling and improving coverage when we're stuck over remarketing accounts. But what almost no agency understands is how to effectively have a conversation with an insured about rate. It's not remarketing out of desperation. It's limiting remarkets to accounts you are prepared to reshop. You can turn a difficult conversation about rate into opportunity if your team has a plan and training to boost their confidence and learn how to handle communicating about insurance rates. Are you sick and tired of overhearing the phone calls in your agency where your team is offering up a reshop rather than reviewing the account with a client? Do you tell your team your expectations, but they take it more as a recommendation than a requirement? Your agency needs a different approach that engages the team and gives them a clear plan with expectations. Our new online course debuts January 15th, which will give your team a plan on how to handle discussions on rate that reduce remarketing and give your team confidence in working with a client to reduce those reshops and increase retention. Check out our newest course on January 15th at 33% off until February 1st, 2021. Well, listeners, I hope that you enjoyed that podcast. Special thank you to Vanessa from the Kimball Group for allowing us to be a very first guest. If you have any questions on our services, we're always here for you. But we have tons of ways we can work together, which includes online sources, do it yourself. We have process packs on our website that you can even purchase. So if you're thinking it's all a little overwhelming, just get started somewhere. But if you'd like to have a meeting, we're open to that too. Anyway, special thanks to Vanessa and her team for being such ridiculously amazing agents. And we'll see you on the next podcast.